Hello and welcome back to the Unburdened Mamas podcast. I was thinking this morning about giving ourselves a hard time because I was giving myself a hard time this morning. I was actually giving myself a hard time about recording a podcast episode because I was telling myself that what does it matter? There's not a whole lot of subscribers to this private podcast yet, so they're not going to notice if I don't record an episode today and put it out there. And when I noticed that, it was interesting how differently I interact with the thoughts that I have now compared to when I really not first started this journey, because I've been coaching for many, many years, but coaching myself in this new identity as retired from the military, stay-at-home mom, life coach. I was coaching myself through that identity, and all of the years leading up to this have been practice. I got to learn a little bit about how it worked. I got to coach with my troops when I was in the military. I got to coach them through career things, but never in my life have I been more aware of how mean I can be to myself. But the coolest part about that is I notice it now, and that's when I'm putting my brain in its place, like stopping that inner bully voice that still happens really naturally for me because it's a practice. And when I really started questioning the idea of showing up today, because nobody's going to notice if I don't put a podcast episode out, I was able to actually have a conversation with myself. When I was originally having the conversation with myself about recording an episode, the go-to pep talk, if you will, was suck it up and do it. Get in front of the mic and record an episode, put it out there. It doesn't matter if nobody's going to hear it. And I felt a lot of resistance when I was having that mental conversation with myself. And I think that's something that happens for all of us when we are building new habits and, stepping into that best version of ourselves. And that's a part of the process. We're going to feel resistance because we're not there yet. Nobody's listening to my podcast yet, but I'm showing up for you guys. I'm showing up for me. I'm showing up for future me. And that's where I want to focus my energies, is building these habits because they get me closer to who I'm becoming every day. Every day I decide to make a decision to take part in whatever habit that I'm working on. Right now it's recording podcasts regularly. And I know that by doing this, when people are ready to subscribe to it and listen to the weird thoughts that come up in my head throughout the day and that I share with you on here, they're going to have a powerful tool that they can binge listen to if they want to, but it doesn't matter if they want to, because I'll also have that proof that I show up for myself. I show up for my goals. I show up for the things that I am working on. And that's really what habits are about. It's about taking small actions that rebuild our trust in ourselves, rebuild that relationship with ourselves because we show up for ourselves. So remember that the next time you're giving yourself a hard time about the habits that you're working on, even when you don't get the habit done that day. If you missed a day on the habit, it doesn't mean all of that work that you've been putting into it is out the window. You thought about it. It was on your mind, and it's becoming a part of you. And every time you even think about those habits and show up for them in some way, even if it is just thinking about it, like, oh, I need to do this habit that I'm working on. Every time you show up in that way, that small way, you're getting yourself closer to that person that you're becoming. And that's one of the ways that I help. And that's really what this whole journey is about. As we learn to relate to ourselves more lovingly, more compassionately, we're showing the world what's possible. We're showing our kids what's possible. And that's one of the reasons I created the Moms Method as part of my Unburdened Mamas Bootcamp. It was me coaching and processing a lot of the thoughts and feelings I was having about myself. Because regardless of what the world says to me, regardless of what my relationship with my kids or my relationship with my spouse, regardless of what they look like, the bulk of what I'm experiencing is tied to how I'm thinking and how I'm feeling. And I'm the one creating my reality through those thoughts and those feelings. And that's when I figured out how to process things for myself more efficiently using that 4 steps. And that's why I created the bootcamp, to share with anybody who wants to learn a little bit more about coaching themselves. Because you have to have a relationship with yourself in order to get to where you're going. And that means processing the things that come up for us, processing the circumstances happening around us, processing the situations that tug at us, the ones that feel out of alignment or make us feel negative about ourselves, negative about our situation. Digging into where those feelings are coming from will help you to relate to them better, help you to relate to yourself better, and help you to interact with the world in a way that feels in alignment as you work through what needs are being highlighted by those negative emotions. That's all I have today. Give yourself some grace when it comes to the habits you're working on. Give yourself permission to miss the mark, because regardless of what mark you're setting for yourself, you're moving yourself toward that goal line that you've set. You're getting closer to that best version of you when you build that fire by showing up each and every day in some way.